Oh, hi. Welcome to Make With Me Monday. I see. Go away, Siri. Go away. Get. Siri. Go away. Siri, go away. I don't know if she's taking my audio, so how do you get rid of Siri? Siri, turn yourself off.
Okay, I won't do it.
Ugh! I hate Siri so much. I hate her so much. Ooh, I talk mad shit to her too. Sorry. Hi. Wow, that was dramatic. Wasn't supposed to be that dramatic. Hi. Welcome to Make With Me Monday. It's Monday, which means it's time to make something. What? My name is Robin French Smith. This is Bath Fizz and Foam, but I'll probably also cross post this to Freshie Nation since that's a new group. And welcome. Hi, welcome. Today we're gonna make Freshies. If you don't know what Freshies are, it's time you done learned, okay? I think that I'm pretty sure that this is a predominantly something that is like very southern United States-ish. I'm not really sure why, because it's cool. Okay, so this is a finished Freshie. Let me show you finished Freshie so you know what we're doing. This is a finished Freshie, okay? So it's aroma beads that are baked. They're soaked in a fragrance. They're baked. And then we add a little eye hook. We add a string. You can paint it if you want to. You don't have to. There's plenty of people that don't paint theirs, don't put glitter on them, okay? And then we put it in a little bag like this, and then we take it to markets. And we noticed this. So the Cada sent me some Freshie molds, I think like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And she was like, hey girl, would you be interested in some Freshies? I was like, I guess. I don't really know what they are. I had no clue. So I made a bunch because I found out they were kind of fun. So I made a bunch, and then we went to a show. We hadn't really done any other shows that year. So we didn't have like a ton of products to bring to our show. So we just brought a crap ton of Freshies, some whipped soap, whipped sugar scrubs, and some other stuff like that. I really hope you guys can hear me because I still see this little up there. Okay. What we found was at that show is that people bought Freshies. Like they bought them up. They would snap them up. And we don't need this yet. Sorry. We need this. People would snap them up. And so we've relaunched Scandalous Soap in the last year, and so we've continued to do Freshies. And as we're going to markets, Freshies represent up to 80% of our sales at times. At a live vendor event, I do think that they're harder to sell online, but at a live vendor event, when they are hanging out there, we put them kind of at the front of one on each side of our tent. And as they're hanging there, people just flock to them. They walk up to them. They start looking through them. It catches people's attention. They want to know what it is. And so I debated for a really long time if I was even going to do a Freshies ebook, because I'm not going to lie to you. Everything that's in the ebook, you can probably find online somewhere. Everything that's in the ebook, you can probably find online somewhere. But I wanted it to all be in a concise place. And I also had a friend. Also, I was like, you know what, though? This is like, it's such a good, like, opportunity, then I kind of felt like almost selfish in a way for not giving this to you guys because because I know that, like, if you're struggling with sales, sometimes you have to, you know, diversify, and this is big. Okay, so let's start, and then while it's baking we'll talk some more. So I'm gonna use Oceanside Vetiver and Cocoa Butter Cashmere today. So I'm gonna start off with, I have a Ducky mold. And this is from Cada Molds. It has this little post already in it, which I love. I wish more molds had a post in them, but they don't. This is one from Sophistication, which I understand. Like, sometimes it's hard to find the place for the post hole. Like, I understand that, but like, Nectaria does have some with post holes, so this is not anything against hers. I'm just wanted to show y'all two types. So this one says love. It will say love when we're done with it. And then this one is a Ducky. The Duckies are a super big seller. They are a super big seller. I did not understand why. And then somebody explained to me that this is like part of Jeep culture, where like in Jeep culture, they give each other Duckies, or you leave a Ducky on their car, and then their Jeep is full of Duckies. And then once somebody told me that, then I started to notice anytime I went to, I don't know, Walmart, and I'm like in the parking lot and I walk by a Jeep, that sure enough, it has like a bunch of Duckies in it. So this is a thing. The Duckies are always going to sell really well. So like, I would say if you had to invest in one mold from Cada Molds, I would start with the Ducky. That would be my suggestion. Although I like lots of their other molds. I think the Ducky is a really good first choice. So I spilled some of the beads as I was filling this. So that's okay. I'm just going to top them off over here. So I filled my mold up with beads. And then I'm going to transfer them into a container so that I can color them. In the ebook, I use baggies, like Ziploc bags. But I have graduated to little containers. Not only are they easier for me to like keep track of, so I can reuse them multiple times, they're also sturdier than I can't remember what that was. Okay, they're also sturdier than Ziploc bags, so I just get more uses out of them. And then I'm gonna put the beads inside of here. Oh, you know what else I need to do? Whoa. Yeah. Did you hear that? That little rain of beads? You have to come to a point of acceptance with that. You're gonna have little beads everywhere. So maybe maybe do it in an area where like you can definitely sweep it up. Mine go underneath my table, and like that's they're there. While we're doing this, I should also be doing this, which is turning on this little toaster oven. I bought this at Walmart for like 15 bucks or 20 bucks. I don't remember. I put Freshies on the schedule and was like, wait, how am I going to bake them? Because I usually bake them in my oven. So I was like, whoa, how am I going to bake these? And so then I decided to just give it a shot with the toaster oven. I know plenty of people in Freshie groups who do make them in a toaster oven, so I know that it will work. It's fine. It works. 15, 20 bucks, something like that. I looked on Amazon. The reason I'm telling you this is that I looked on Amazon, and all of the toaster ovens like this on Amazon were at least 40 or 50 bucks. And I am not about that. Okay, on the top of the lid, I write what mold this is going to go to. So when I'm doing like 15 or 20 Freshies at a time, I can not get them mixed up. So, but right now we don't really have to do this. I know I'm doing a Ducky. It's yellow. I'm going to do the love mold, and it's going to be white. But that is something to keep in mind. Okay. So we're going to fill the love mold up. Now, because this one doesn't have a hole, I could go get a nail. I could go get a nail and stick a nail there, and then it'll make a post hole for me. You can also use these little rubber things. They're for like, let's see, it says 22 pieces reusable straw tips, steel straws. Straw tips for steel straws. Okay, you can use those. I think they make a post hole that's too big, so I don't really like them. So I just don't do it. Okay, so I'm gonna fill this one up, and then I'm gonna show you how to color them. You don't have to be like I know these ones on this tray are gonna fit in there too, so I'm just gonna pour them all in. One thing I do like to do with this toaster oven in particular is that while I'm working on filling the mold and coloring it and stuff, I just set my mold on top of the toaster oven so it kind of heats up a little bit, which I do think is helpful for getting like really nice crisp designs. I don't have to do that with my, I don't have to do it in general, but I particularly don't have to do that at all ever with my oven in the house. So this is mainly just a toaster oven. But if you need to do that for yours, you can. That's the thing. That's the thing about Freshies. I'm so sorry. You have to do it, and you have to try it, and you have to like have a few go really wrong. You have to mess up a few of them. I have some messed up ones somewhere. You have to mess up a few of them just to kind of understand what works best, you know, for you, you know. Okay, so to color this, I'm going to use Blue Enigma. I would normally use Winter White from Nurture Soap, but I'm out of it right now, so I'm going to use Blue Enigma. For the Ducky, I'm going to use Slug Bug. And I have seen people, when I say people, I mean like Bailey. Like when I first saw Bailey Cada making these, she just like sprinkles mica in. Like she just sprinkles mica in. So I guess because she's been doing it for a long time, or other makers, if they've been doing it for a long time, like they can kind of eyeball it. I can't. I like to be a little bit more like precise about it because I don't know. So for a mold that is, well, might get everywhere. So for a mold that is this size, which I would consider these like medium-sized molds, I use like 3 to 4 micro scoops of a mica. So your mica usage rate is going to go way down. So, you know, if your husband or partner or whatever is like, oh, you're going to jump into another hobby, you can be like, hey, I will use less mica. Okay, so okay, so I'm gonna do the same thing for this one. And also in just a second, I will hop on my phone. Once we get these beads in the oven, I'll hop on my phone and see if there's comments, because I don't see comments today. Doesn't mean you're not commenting, doesn't mean you are. I just feel rude when you are commenting and I'm not saying anything back to you. Okay, so I'm going to close that up. I would say the most annoying part of making Freshies is shaking them. Okay, then I'm going to open it up and I'm going to check my beads. If my beads look good, they look covered. It's hard to see because I have a light right there. They look good. They look, you know, like there's full coverage. If they look like patchy, like lighter in some areas and darker in other areas, first I'm going to try shaking it again before I add more mica. This also looks good. First I'm going to try shaking it. Oh, I feel like an influencer. First I would try shaking it again to make sure that it's just, you know, sometimes if it's a bigger mold, like I didn't shake it well enough. And then if it still looks patchy, I'll add another scoop or so of mica. switch these. Okay, so this little microwave oven fits 2 Freshies. That's why we're doing 2. I probably could have done some vent molds too with it, but it's not that big a deal. I have seen people say that you shouldn't bake 2 different fragrances at the same time. I don't think that's true. I bake like all kinds of different fragrances all the time. It's perfectly fine. The only ones that smell like mashups are when I mash up the fragrance. Like I have beads left over from one thing I was testing, and beads left over from another thing I was testing, and I just throw them together and call it a day. Those are the ones that smell different. But if they're baked in the same oven or at the same time, it does. I don't think it affects the way they smell. You can also buy pre-scented, pre-colored. Well, you can buy pre-scented and pre-colored beads. I say in the ebook, I don't know why you would do this. And then immediately as soon as the ebook was published, my husband was like, there's a lot of people that want pre-colored beads. So I'm going to add pre-colored beads to our listings. And I was like, oh yeah, it's a great idea. Like we had already released the ebook and everything. So I was like, so I suppose like if you're doing wholesale and you want them all to look the same, or if you just don't want to do with mica, I guess those are good reasons. But in the ebook, I'm like, I can't think of a single good reason to use pre-colored beads. Which is why I say you should probably ignore me half the time. But all right, I'm going to pop these in the oven and I'm going to put a timer on and then I'm going to check on those. Oh my God, I was listening to such a fascinating YouTube interview with a lady who's a technical writer, which does not sound that interesting, but I found it mad interesting. Okay, we're going to let those go for about 20 minutes, and while that's going, I'm going to show you some other stuff, okay? So, first I'm going to check comments. Put my phone, don't make sounds. Where am I? Every time I update my phone, I feel like I'm like 9,000 years old. Like, and I don't want to be like, I hate technology, that just ruins everything. But literally, okay, 16 comments. Yo, Facebook, why you be like that? Okay. Tracy says hello. Nancy says you can hear me. Okay, good. I'm glad y'all could hear me at the beginning. So you probably also heard me because it's Siri, so sorry. Patty says, yep, you have a Jeep and you love getting ducks on your Jeep. It's a Jeep thing. So the Ducky mold. I'm just saying. Samantha says hi. Lakita says hi. Shelby says, do I clean out my oven every time I use the household one? No, I don't. Here's the deal. I've seen people say you shouldn't bake your Freshies in your oven that you bake things in, which is like, I cold process, hot process my soap, which is like I make the loaf of soap, put it into the oven, like put the oven on a low temperature, put it into the oven for like, I don't know, 8 to 10 minutes, then turn the oven off, and it sits in the oven hot for like sometimes up to 2 days. Just kind of depends on how long it takes me to turn on the oven. And remember, I have soap in there. So I do that all the time. I do not see why Freshies would be any different. Additionally, I have made hundreds and hundreds of Freshies at this point. Anything we bake is fine. I mean, maybe if you do it like directly afterwards, there would be some like fragrance, but I don't think that there's any transfer. Amanda says, stupid question, maybe. No, there's no stupid question, only stupid people. Can you use the mold for melt and pour soap or solid shear scrubs as well? Yes. Okay, here's the thing. I have been thinking about that. I think I did one where I like tested it, but I tested it with cold process soap. So I should have tested it with melt and pour, or I should have tested it with something else like a lotion bar. But I'm like pretty sure you could do that. I'm pretty sure you could do that. They're a little bit big, but you could also get. Hold on. You could also get like smaller ones. You could also get smaller ones. I'm trying to turn this so you can see it. Okay, it's small. It's a peace sign. There you go. So this, I think, would make a perfect soap size soap. So yeah, absolutely. Okay. More questions. Hold on. Okay, Amanda shared a link. Tasha said, you purchased the ebook this morning, went online, purchased beads. Just wondering if you know if regular silicone molds for melt and pour soap will work. You have so many. So I did use, hold on. I have like a square one, and I did use that to make the little square colors that we have to like show the little square color blocks for our Freshies. And I use like a silicone square ice mold. You can use these kinds. The downside to them is I would cut them if I used them. So that's what, like, you could cut two, so you only have two in each, section, which I cut my silicone molds all the time. So don't be afraid to cut your molds. I'm like, oh, that's not going to fit on the tray. Slice. Now you fit. So I cut them, especially when they're like, anyway. Okay. So because it makes it hard to get to this part where you squish it in, and I'll show you what I mean by that in just a little bit. It does make that harder. But other than that, you could use molds like this. Okay. What questions? I turned on Euryse. It's so annoying. Marianne says, sometimes just a scent, I'm assuming, lingers in the oven. But sprinkle some baking soda, spray with vinegar, and wipe. It kills the smell. Obviously do it when it's cooled off. Yeah, like if you need to bake a cake right after, go for it. I will be the first to tell you that I have tested the soap gods many times, and every time they've been like, no, child. So there's been more than one equation. There's been more than one occasion where I was like, I need powdered sugar. Oh, I have some in the soap room. Put it in something, and then it tastes like Love Spell or something. So I'm just saying I haven't noticed it in the oven with the Freshies, is what I'm saying. So I'm gonna say no, but also just like take that with a grain of salt, because I am a very adventurous person. I take risks, okay? And then Mary nothing. Marianne verified that that you can use the molds for melt and pour. Sarah says, have you tried Trial by Fire from Nurture Soap? It's a pigment / mica blend. You can use pigments if you want to. They don't spread as evenly. So you can use pigments though, because I've seen I'm not making fun of them, okay? I'm just about to say, I've seen in Freshie groups when people are like, oh my God, guys, y'all, if you want to get a perfect pure white, you have to try this miracle ingredient I found. It's amazing. You can get it with my rep code to Jessica24 on checkout, and you can get 24% off. Okay. It's called titanium dioxide, and it gets things white. And I'm sorry, if you're in a Freshie group and you're Jessica224 or 24 or whatever, I'm sorry. I'm not making fun of you. It's just, it's funny to me because we use titanium dioxide in soap all the time. We use titanium dioxide in cosmetics a lot. And it's interesting to me that there is not more of an intersection between cosmetic makers and Freshie makers. I think that was the one thing that like also pushed me to put the ebook out, because I was like, why is that intersectionality not occurring? Because you're using fragrance oils, you're using fragrance oils, you're using silicone molds, you're using silicone molds. Like, come on, people. You're using micas, you're using micas. What are we doing? Come together. So there is less of a than I would have expected. And so, yeah, you have people who are like just astonished to have found this colorants that like we use all the time. We know about it. What we don't know about, right? What our freshie makers are like, how do I get the beads to smell good? How do I do this? Like, those are the questions that we have, right? So, let me show you. We have 11 minutes left on this, which doesn't mean that it's done. It's just when I'm checking it, okay? So let me show you how to make your beads have fragrance. Okay. Exhibit a jar. You're going to want to use a glass jar. Exhibit B, a scale. These are unscented Freshie beads. There's like a few different styles of Freshie beads. When you try the different types, you'll figure out like what kind you like best. And it really just depends on how you cook them, how you prefer to cook them, all that rigmarole. Okay, so I'm going to put 4 ounces of beads in here. It kills me to not weigh in grams, but it's not that serious, so it's okay. And then I'm going to put VCB, which you totally know what that is. This Volcano Capri Blue or Volcano Blue Capri. I don't know how you say it. Anyway, that's what this fragrance is, and I'm going to put an ounce of that in here. If you over pour just a tiny bit, it's okay. It's not as serious as other things. Okay. Then you can see how the oil is sitting down on the bottom, right? So I'm gonna shake it. And little sucker's slippery now. Good God. Okay. And then I'm also gonna label it with our label maker. But you want to come by and give this a little shake every 30 minutes to an hour. This fragrance absorbs very quickly for us with our beads from our supplier. It absorbs within 24 to 36 hours. My husband has taken over the job of being Freshie Man, so like I don't really know the boring things like that anymore. I just do like the fabulous things, okay? So, yeah. If this is what they would look like when they're done. Well, there's a couple that stuck up there, but when they're done, okay, hold on. Can we see what's happening? When they're done, they should just roll around freely. They shouldn't be sticking to the sides. They should just roll. I'm so sorry about camera angles, etc. That's what they're going to look like when they're done. If you did your ratio and you weighed everything out and then they look dry, but then you can still see oil all over the beads and they're kind of rolling around, but not really. There's definitely something going on with these. Then you can increase the beads that you have in here, which increases your ratio, and hopefully that will work. If that doesn't work, you can increase the ratio a 3rd time, like this little bead right here, which I know it used to work. It used to work. It doesn't work now. We've tried switching different suppliers. It doesn't work. We've tried switching different beads. It doesn't work. I don't know what happens. The universe is just like, nah, son. So this is a lost cause. I did take some, like at Christmas time, I made I made like maybe a jar, oh, this size of this naughty little fella because he had worked, so I believed him. I made a jar this size, which is a lot of Freshie beads to have be wrong. It's a lot of fragrance oil to have be wrong. And I put them in tins and then put like a little like resin, like a little, what are those little squishy, like a charm, like a slime charm or something like that. Put that on top of it and sold them. You can take the lid off, put the tin in your desk or your office or under your seat in your car, whatever. So you can still kind of recover from it, but like don't make huge, massive mistakes like that. Or if you do, share them. It makes us feel normal when that happens. Okay. So yeah. Let me see what else. What else? Let's see. Marianne said that likes my Valley Girl. Thank you. Nectaria says hi. And that Nectaria says you got a sample of fragrance from a supplier and you're using it to make some beads and they haven't absorbed yet. Most of the other fragrance oils I have used are great. So this is the thing. We test, like for every one fragrance that we bring on, and like now we're really trying to like pare it down to like only carrying fragrances that also work in Freshie beads, because having it work in soap and not cosmetics was fine. Like sometimes it would, sometimes it wouldn't. Like I wasn't like too stressed about that. But now that we have this third one and then this is like at a live market, this is going to represent 80% of our sales. So this kind of has taken precedence. So like if it doesn't work as a Freshie, we're like goodbye. So but yeah, they don't all work. And sometimes they do work, but they don't smell good. Sometimes they don't smell good. Nectaria says, oh yes, this is a good thing. Matt's saying that there are differences between suppliers, which I do talk about this in the ebook, but like just because you try it from Nurture Soap and then you go get it from Mad Micas or Mad Oils, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're both going to work. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to work, because wherever your supplier is getting their supply from probably could have a different formulation. Might have the same formulation, but could have a different formulation. So it can be painful sometimes when you realize that. What else is there to talk? Okay, let me talk about molds real quick. So we did talk about molds a little bit, okay? And I did say that I love the Cada molds. I didn't know when Bailey sent them to me how good they were, because I never made Freshies before. And so I was like, well, I see all these other designs out there, and I want other designs. And so I cheated on the Cadas, and I went out, and I got molds from... I joined Freshie groups, and I looked up, like, what are the molds they're recommending? Where are the shops that they're recommending the molds from? Did that. Went to all the highest recommended shops. Got my heart broken several times for different reasons. Not always the same reason. And sometimes a supplier will have molds that I love, but then for some reason, one of the ones I order from them is, like, not good. Which, it's not as common, but... Okay. For example, let's use this as an example. This one was a highly recommended mold maker. Can you see the problem here? It may be hard to tell, but this side is higher than this side. That side is higher than that side. And so when you make the Freshie, you wouldn't think that it would be such a big deal, but it ends up like his ear... This is a stitch. I wanted it to work. His ear ends up being squashed over here, and it just doesn't look good. Like, it's not, it doesn't. Okay. Next, we have stuff like this. Very cool mold, right? Everybody's like, oh, I want to know where you got that mold from. Okay, but let me show you something. Hold on. You can see straight through it. You can see straight through it. That may not be a problem, but it could be a problem because you're like turning these molds inside and out all the time. You're messing with them all the time. So when it's that thin, this one is going to rip on me eventually. Like eventually it will rip on me. And I'll be sad when it does because it was cute. But I just, to me, I don't like the way that feels. And also it's going to bake differently. If I put it in the oven with one like this that's just like super sturdy, it's going to bake differently. So then I have to babysit it. Goodbye. It doesn't make like a satisfying like clunk, so just pretend that there was like a clunk when I did that. I could drop my water bottle again and we could pretend. Okay, here's another problem I've run into. Good God, size matters, people. Let's talk about this. This is so big. Why is this so big? Why is it as big? Like, I know that there's a forced perspective going on here, so I'm trying to like legitimately illustrate to you how big this is. It's so big. It's like, okay, look at your arm. This isn't even half my arm, okay? This is like from my elbow. What is this length? This is girl measurements too, by the way. This is not even my full arm, full half of my arm. This is like 2/3 of my arm. Look at your arm. Go 2/3. That's how big this mold is. First off, that's a lot of freaking beads. And I know, like, okay, charge more if you're using more beads, but like, that's a lot of beads. And then also, that's going to be a gigantic freshie in your mirror. Now, hey, okay, I'm not sure about this. You may like that. You may want those. Personally, I don't. So, one of the things that frustrates me is paying for a mold. I don't know, like maybe I should suggest like what if we had sizes and dimensions? Like that would maybe be cool. But like it's just disappointing for me because I'm not going to use it. I'm never going to use that mold. I'm just not going to use it. All right, let's check our little babies. Okay. Oh, I'm hungry. A little hunger mold. Okay, I'm going to use my heat glove. I'm going to pull these out. I'm going to show ya. Can you see the spikes on the side of the duck? Can you see the spikes around his head? That's where the mold, the beads are melting down the side of the mold. And that's telling me that it's close to being done. So this is a paper towel that I got wet and then squeezed the water out of. So it's damp, not soaking wet, not really dry, but damp. And I'm gonna go around and just push the edges down because one of the things I think one of the prejudices that I had against Freshies is that the only ones I had ever seen were the ones that were baked with a cookie cutter. And I just didn't like the way they look because since the cookie cutter's metal, you can't smush down the edges, and so it always has spikes on the back. And I really didn't like that very much. I'm also just gonna give them like a quick smush down. The way I bake my Freshies has changed over time. I've done a few different methods, and the way I bake them has changed over time. So I encourage you to also try a couple different ways to do it and find what works best for you. So one of the things that I can see that's happening, I'm sorry, I'm going to force it to happen. It is happening, but I'm going to force it. So one of the things that's happening is this part, the sides when I'm pressing one down, this part's like scooching up. Okay, it's like scooching up. And basically I know that it's not as melted as the edges. So that tells me it's not done. So I'm going to pop it back in. So many Freshie makers will tell you what I'm about to tell you. But I started off baking them high, like high heat, doing pretty quick. But over time, I have just started doing it like this, where I bake them low and slow. Low and slow, just let them ruminate and bake them low and slow. Okay. I will not hold you hostage here the whole time that they bake. Let's see, what time is it? Yeah. But you can if you want to. But I have other ones to unmold to show you. So, this is the last thing I want to say about molds. I do like this cherry mold. I do like it. I do think it's a little bit harder to find a good place to put the eye hook in it, which is how you hang it from the car. But that's my I could probably hang it here. It's just like I feel like it should be there. But the only thing that I would say like would be my complaint about this one is that I really like the taller molds. I really prefer them when they're taller because I feel like this is a little bit like with 3D printed bath bomb molds where like a hybrid mold you have one size, that's it, you have to fill the mold all the way up to its full and then you unmold it. Where a like a 3-piece bath bomb mold, you have more choice in how big or thick the freshie ends up being, or bath bomb, whatever bath bomb ends up being, freshie ends up being. So when it's taller like this, I have more control over how thick I want the freshie to be. I do like them to be a little bit thicker. I think they just look nicer, they feel nicer. So that would be the other thing. So it's hard to know when you're looking online, how thick is it, how sturdy is the silicone. This is sturdy. I like this. This is a little bit more sturdy, but it's still kind of flimsy. You can see through the cherry parts. So all those things are important, but it's hard to know when you're just buying them. And we have never done approved vendors in bath fizz and foam, which it maybe that is something that we should look at doing, especially now that US suppliers may not be the first choice for some people. Okay, we'll just leave it at that. So perhaps that's something that we should look at doing for bath fizz and foam, but that sounds like a lot of work right now, so I'm not going to do that. But for Freshie Nation, we have done that. We have created a list of vendors that I myself have personally tried and they passed muster. So if you're a supplier and you are interested in making that list, it doesn't mean that like that's the only people you can buy from. Go buy from everybody else you see recommended. It's just that you have to always keep in mind, if somebody is getting a kickback for the thing that they're recommending to you, then can you really trust that review? That's one of the reasons that I'm never gonna I have to use it first. And sometimes vendors do send me stuff free, but before they ever do that, I buy that first round of stuff that I get from them because I want to be able to 100% give you a review that is thorough and honest, and I have no obligation to be nice about it. If I don't like it, I talk to the vendor about it and I say like, hey, this is what I don't like. I don't come on here and blast them, right? But any review that you get from me, I'm not saying you can't trust other people, okay? I'm just trying to say, like, I try to have as much transparency with that as possible so that you know when I'm telling you that this is a good mold maker, you're okay, cool, right? Okay, so if you are a vendor and you want to get on that approved list, just message me or message Amanda and we'll tell you. It's not difficult, you know? I just gotta try some shit. Okay. Let me show you. There's still 5 minutes on that one. These are the ones I'm going to paint in Patreon today. These are ones I made last night. This is also a near perfect bake. You want to be able to still see the shape of the Freshie beads in the back. You don't want it to be... You don't want the back to look like this, where it's so smooth and even bubbled up because you left it in there so long. You don't want that. You want to still be able to see the beads a little bit. Okay. This is the mold. And this is the design. This is a concha, which is a pastry, a Mexican pastry that I happen to really like. They're delicious. So we're gonna paint this one in Patreon. And I'm also going to go over how do I add the eye hook, how do I, do the finishing touches on them. This is the other one. This is also, I wouldn't say this is a 100%, oh yeah, it's a pretty good bake. I'm not going to lie. That's a pretty good bake. It's pretty flat. All the details, like look at all the details on this tail. Like I'm not losing any of those little tiny details. It's smooth. This is a really good bake. This is goals. However, if you... Why do I have so many jacked up Freshies? I don't know where it went. I have... If you get it, if you pull it out and there's still beads visible, like the center isn't baked, I will not lie to you. I have more than one time popped that pucky, popped that pucky back into the mold, put it back in the oven and rebaked it. I've done that before. Okay. So when these are done, this is why I like, you don't have to hang around for this part, but when these are done, I'm just going to pull them out. I'm not going to press them a second time. I don't know why. I don't know why. It's just the current way that I do it. There's like a million different ways to do it. You can press it twice. You can put half the beads in, press those, then put more beads in. Don't press the top. You can put half the beads in, don't press those, put the rest of the beads in, then press. Like there's like a zillion different ways that you can bake your Freshies. Try them all. Find out which one works for you. This is the current one I'm doing. I don't know why. It's like, in crafting, like sometimes you do that and you're like, wait, when did I switch from doing that to that? And you can't remember. I don't know why I started doing that, but I like it now. It's working for me, okay? Yeah, and they need to fully cool before I take them out of the mold, which is why I made these ahead of time so I could take some out of the mold and show you. Yeah. Let me check on Facebook and see if there's any questions. Okay. Nectaria says, it's amazing that's such a huge part of your sales. It draws people in. It draws people in. We were really lucky to find on Marketplace. I think my husband got these on Marketplace. But they're like the stands that you have in an actual like store with the little hooks. It's like a pegboard and it spins and it has like hooks and stuff. So we put these little things on the back of our things and so they hang. I've also seen people just use a pegboard. Just set up a pegboard at your table and just have them all there. So, but they just draw people in. Probably because they're bright and pretty. Marianne says when they sat it, it wasn't flat. That stitch mold, it makes me... But here's the deal. Here's the deal with that. This is why it pisses me off so bad. I don't know why I'm like censoring myself for piss, but I said shit. If I, as a maker, make something, it's a custom, somebody orders it, and I say I do things custom, and I order, and it comes into me, and I do it, and it doesn't come out correctly, guess what I do? I eat that and redo it. And so to get a mold that clearly has a flaw like that, and to have the vendor who was so highly recommended not do that, pisses me off. Because sometimes, like, I try to get them on sale, but when these molds are not on sale, they can be like $20. So I try to wait for like when they're like 50% off. So, but don't just tell my husband I always buy them at 50% off, please. So that's why that pisses me off, because it's not kind. Like vendor to vendor, we should always be kind. Business to business sales, we should always be kind to each other because we are supporting each other. So when I see stuff like that, it just makes I get hot about it. Tracy says try a beauty blender. You can get the to press. I've seen people use a beauty blender. I've seen people use a silicone spatula. I've seen people, I've seen people use like all different kinds of things to press it down when it's cooking. And I have to, unfortunately, just allow this to keep ticking all the way down till it's done, because it was $15, y'all, so I'm not like gonna complain about it too much. If I see any little spots where I missed the little spikes, I'll squish them down now, but I'm not gonna re-squish them. I used to, I don't know why. I don't know. Try it both ways. Try no squishing. Try all squishing. Oh my belly, hungry. Try layers. Try no layers. Try a few different ways and see what works for you. Okay. I think that's all for today, kid. Oh wait, let me see if there's more questions. Nectaria says you need to try the rebake if the mill isn't fully done. Yes. For molds without post, could you drill a hole with a hole bit? You could. That's going to take up so much of your time. You could just screw it in. You don't need to do a drill bit and all this stuff. It's not worth your time. Where did I find all the things I attached? Like for the for this, like the hook and the stretchy cord, that's all on Amazon. I get all that on Amazon. All of it on Amazon. Michelle said, did I do layers this time? I did not, but the one on Patreon, there are a couple videos on Patreon where I bake Freshies, and I do them in layers. Like, over time, like, it's just like anything that you're doing constantly, like your techniques and stuff will change as you find what you prefer. Do we have a source that newbies like you can buy a kit that have all the things? I did de-stash a few kits like that, and mostly it was just like molds that I was not happy with. But here's the deal. So like this mold, which is insanely too big, right? What I did is I measured out how many beads it would take, put all the beads in it, so gave you the exact number of beads, gave you some mica to put into it, some instructions for how to do it. I can't remember what else. I think we also gave it eye hook and a silicone thing, like the stretchy string. Like we put everything in it, and then we charged $20, which the mold cost $20. So it's like I'm not like trying to make money on the mold, you know. It's just like, because I'm not selling you a mold because I don't like it. So I don't want to be like, I'm selling you a mold. I'm just selling you like the first time experience of making a Freshie, and then after that. But those are also de-stashes. I don't know if I'm going to do that again. I might. I could. I don't know. Oh, you know what? Actually, I think that Break the Mold, if you're in Canada, I think that Breaking the Mold does have some starter kits that has everything in there that you need. So I will include links at the end of this description. Help me, Jesus. I will include links at the end of this that gives you all the information, where I got my top cap, where I got my shirt, where I got my molds, where I got that thing, where I got my makers from, and anything else that I can think of to add. I will do that probably after 2, though. I mean, after 3, after Patreon's done. So anyway, if you're in Patreon, come to Patreon. We're going to paint these. We're going to use glitter. It's going to be fantastic. Not for this one, though. So yeah, if you're in Patreon, come to Patreon. Come and join me on Patreon. And if you're not, that's okay. It's fine. You're not missing much. It's all in the ebook, okay? That's it. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. As always, happy making. Boop.